I want you to try something. Close your eyes for just a moment. Or if you're already lying down with them closed, just stay present with me. Now, without opening your eyes, without moving, without looking at yourself, answer this question. Do you exist? Of course you do. You know you exist. You're aware, conscious, present. There's an I experiencing this moment. But here's the strange part. How do you know? You're not seeing your body right now. You're not touching yourself. You're not looking in a mirror. And yet, you have this immediate, undeniable awareness that you exist. That there's a you experiencing existence. Where does that awareness come from? Is it your body? Your brain? Or is it something else? Something that exists independently of your physical form? 1,000 years ago, a Persian philosopher named Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, asked exactly this question. And his answer, presented in one of the most elegant thought experiments in history, challenged everything people thought they knew about consciousness, identity, and the soul. He called it the flying man argument. And tonight, we're going to explore it step by step, understand what it proves, why it mattered then, and why it still matters now in an age of neuroscience and artificial intelligence. So settle in. Keep your eyes closed if you'd like. And let's think together about the most mysterious thing in the universe, your own awareness. Ibn Sina was a master of thought experiments. He understood that sometimes the best way to reveal truth isn't through observation or logic alone, but through carefully imagining impossible scenarios that force clarity. And the flying man is his masterpiece. Here's how it works. I want you to follow along, not just intellectually, but experientially. Actually imagine this happening to you. Picture this. You're created, fully formed as an adult human being, but in a completely unique situation. You're suspended in the air, floating. But you can't feel the air against your skin because the air is perfectly neutral, exactly body temperature, no wind, no pressure difference. Your eyes are covered. Or maybe you were created without the ability to see. Either way, you perceive no light, no darkness, just nothing visual. Your ears don't register any sound. Complete silence. Not the silence where you hear ringing or your own heartbeat, but absolute absence of auditory input. You can't smell anything. Can't taste anything. Your arms and legs aren't touching each other or anything else. They're spread apart, suspended, isolated. You have no sensory input whatsoever. No sight, no sound, no touch, no smell, no taste. Nothing from the external world reaches you. And here's the crucial part. You were created just now, fully formed. You have no memories, no past experiences, no knowledge of what a body is or what physical existence means. No learned concepts. Nothing. You're a consciousness, freshly created, with zero sensory data and zero prior knowledge. Now, Ibn Sina asks, in this state, would you know that you exist? Think about it carefully. You can't see yourself, can't feel your body, can't hear yourself breathe, have no memories to confirm. I existed before this moment. No sensory evidence that proves you're real. Would you know you exist? And Ibn Sina's answer is yes. Absolutely yes. Even in this completely isolated state, even with zero sensory input, even with no prior knowledge or memories, you would still have an immediate, direct, undeniable awareness of your own existence. You would know, I am. Not, I have a body. Or, I am experiencing sensations. Just the pure fact of existence. The simple, irreducible awareness, I exist. This awareness, Ibn Sina argues, doesn't come from your senses. It can't, because in this scenario you have no sensory input. It doesn't come from your body. You're not aware of having a body in this thought experiment. You can't feel it, can't see it, don't know what a body even is. So where does this awareness come from? Ibn Sina's conclusion, from the soul itself. From a non-physical aspect of your being that is self-aware independent of any physical sensation or bodily existence. The soul knows itself directly, immediately, without needing eyes to see itself or nerves to feel itself or memories to confirm itself. This is what makes the flying man argument so powerful. It's not trying to prove that souls exist by appealing to religion or tradition or authority. It's trying to show you, through your own immediate experience, that there's something about your consciousness that can't be reduced to physical sensations or bodily awareness. So let's be clear about what Ibn Sina is claiming here, because it's easy to misunderstand the argument or dismiss it too quickly. He's not saying, you have a soul because religion says so. He's not saying, consciousness is magic and can't be explained. He is saying, your awareness of your own existence is fundamentally different from your awareness of external things. Let me explain the distinction. When you're aware of a tree, you need your eyes. Light reflects off the tree, enters your eye, stimulates your retina, sends signals to your brain, and only then do you become aware of tree. When you're aware of a sound, you need your ears. Sound waves vibrate your eardrum, tiny bones amplify the vibration, nerves translate it into electrical signals, your brain processes it, and then you hear. Every external thing you're aware of requires a mediating process. Sensory organs, nerves, brain activity. The awareness is indirect. It goes through steps. But your awareness of your own existence? That's different. You don't need to see yourself to know you exist. You don't need to touch yourself. You don't need any sensory data at all. The awareness is immediate, direct, unmediated. You just know. Instantly. Without any process or intermediary. This is what Ibn Sina is pointing to. The self-awareness of consciousness is unique. It's not like other forms of awareness. And if it's not like other forms of awareness, if it doesn't depend on physical processes the way seeing and hearing do, then what is it? Ibn Sina's answer, it's the soul. A non-physical reality that has the capacity to know itself directly. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. But we know now that consciousness is produced by the brain. Neuroscience has proven this. Damage the brain, and consciousness changes or disappears. So consciousness is physical, not some mysterious soul. This is a fair objection. And Ibn Sina couldn't respond to neuroscience because he lived 1,000 years before brain scans and neuroimaging. But here's what's interesting. Modern neuroscience doesn't actually contradict the core insight of the flying man argument. Yes, consciousness correlates with brain activity. Yes, damage to the brain affects consciousness. But correlation isn't the same as identity. Your brain activity might be necessary for consciousness. But that doesn't prove that consciousness is nothing but brain activity. Here's an analogy. A TV needs electricity to function. Damage the TV's circuits, and the picture disappears. But that doesn't mean the TV program is electricity. The electricity is necessary, but the program, the information being displayed, is something distinct. Similarly, maybe the brain is necessary for consciousness to manifest in physical reality, but consciousness itself, the subjective experience of being aware, might be something more than just neurons firing. This is still debated. Materialists say consciousness is entirely physical, entirely explained by brain processes. Dualists say consciousness is something else, something non-physical that interacts with the brain but isn't reducible to it. Ibn Sina was a dualist. He believed the soul is real, distinct from the body, and capable of existing independently. But what makes the flying man argument powerful is that it doesn't require you to accept dualism. It just requires you to notice something about your own experience. Your awareness of your own existence feels fundamentally different from your awareness of external objects. And that difference, that immediate self-awareness, is worth thinking about deeply. Because even if consciousness is produced by the brain, there's still this puzzling question: why does it feel like something to be conscious? Why is there a subjective, first-person experience at all? This is what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. And it's still unsolved. Even with all our neuroscience, we can't fully explain why physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience. Ibn Sina's flying man doesn't solve this problem, but it points directly at it. It highlights the mystery. It shows that consciousness, especially self-awareness, is strange, unique, not quite like anything else we encounter in nature. And recognizing that strangeness is the first step toward actually understanding what consciousness is. Now let's go deeper. Because when Ibn Sina talks about the soul, he doesn't just mean some vague spiritual essence. He has a specific theory about what the soul is and how it works. In Ibn Sina's philosophy, which draws heavily from Aristotle but goes beyond him, the soul has different levels or faculties. The lowest level is the vegetative soul. This is what plants have. It governs basic life functions: growth, nutrition, reproduction. Your body has this. It keeps your heart beating, your cells dividing, your organs functioning. The next level is the animal soul. This is what animals have. It includes sensation, movement, imagination, memory. Your senses, your ability to move your body, your capacity to form mental images, these all belong to the animal soul. The highest level is the rational soul. This is what humans have that animals don't. The capacity for abstract thought, logical reasoning, understanding universal concepts. And here's the key: the rational soul, according to Ibn Sina, is immaterial. It's not physical. It doesn't depend on the body in the same way that the vegetative and animal souls do. The flying man argument is specifically about this rational soul. It's trying to show that your capacity for self-awareness, your ability to know that you exist as a thinking being, comes from this immaterial rational soul. Now you might ask, if the soul is immaterial, how does it interact with the body? How does a non-physical mind control a physical brain? This is the famous mind-body problem. And Ibn Sina had an answer, though it's complicated. He believed that the soul and body are intimately connected, but not identical. The soul uses the body as its instrument. The soul thinks, wills, decides. The body executes, senses, moves. Think of it like a musician and an instrument. The musician isn't the violin, but the musician needs the violin to produce music. Damage the violin, and the music changes or stops. But the musician, the source of the music, is distinct from the instrument. Similarly, the soul needs the body to interact with the physical world. Damage the brain, and the soul's ability to express itself changes. But the soul itself, the conscious, thinking, self-aware entity, might persist even if the body is damaged or destroyed. This is why Ibn Sina believed in life after death. If the soul is immaterial and self-aware independent of the body, then the soul could, in principle, continue existing after the body dies. Now, modern neuroscience challenges this view. Because we can see that specific brain regions correspond to specific mental functions. Damage Broca's area, and you lose the ability to produce speech. Damage the hippocampus, and you can't form new memories. This suggests that mental functions are localized in the brain, not in some immaterial soul. But Ibn Sina might respond, yes, the brain is necessary for these functions to manifest in physical reality. But the capacity for awareness itself, the subjective experience of being conscious, might still be something more fundamental. Here's a thought experiment to illustrate the mystery. Imagine we create a perfect digital copy of your brain. Every neuron, every synapse, every electrical pattern, perfectly replicated in a computer simulation. This digital brain processes information exactly like your biological brain. It responds to inputs, generates outputs, exhibits all the behavioral markers of consciousness. The question is, would this digital brain be conscious? Would there be a subjective experience, what it's like to be that simulation? Or would it just be a very sophisticated information processor with no inner life? We don't know. And this is the puzzle. If consciousness is just information processing, then yes, the simulation should be conscious. But something about this feels wrong to many people. Something about consciousness seems to require more than just computation. Ibn Sina would say that something more is the soul, the immaterial, self-aware aspect of being that can't be reduced to physical processes or simulated in a computer. Whether he's right or wrong, the question he's asking is still alive, still unanswered, still worth thinking about deeply. Here's something fascinating. 600 years after Ibn Sina wrote about the flying man, a French philosopher named René Descartes made almost the exact same argument. In his Meditations on First Philosophy, published in 1641, Descartes famously wrote, "I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum." His reasoning was similar to Ibn Sina's. Descartes used methodical doubt. He imagined that everything he perceived might be an illusion. An evil demon might be deceiving him, making him see, hear, and feel things that aren't real. He doubted his senses, doubted the external world, doubted mathematics, doubted everything. But one thing he couldn't doubt, that he was doubting. And if he was doubting, then he must exist. Because you can't doubt without being a thing that doubts. I think, therefore I am. This is almost identical to Ibn Sina's conclusion from the flying man. Even without sensory input, even without any external confirmation, the mere fact of being aware proves that you exist. Did Descartes know about Ibn Sina? Probably not directly. Ibn Sina's works were translated into Latin in the 12th century and were studied in medieval European universities. But by Descartes' time, much of Islamic philosophy had been forgotten or overshadowed by later European thinkers. So Descartes likely arrived at this insight independently, which, in a way, makes it even more powerful. Two brilliant minds, separated by 6 centuries and vastly different cultures, both recognize the same fundamental truth. Self-awareness is immediate, undeniable, and doesn't depend on sensory experience. But there's a subtle difference between them. Descartes emphasized thinking. I think, therefore I am. The act of thinking proves existence. Ibn Sina emphasized being. The flying man isn't necessarily thinking in the sense of reasoning or problem-solving. He's just aware, just existing, just present. This distinction matters because it shows that consciousness isn't just about cognition. It's not just about thinking thoughts or solving problems. It's about the raw fact of experience itself, the simple, irreducible presence of awareness. You could be the flying man with no thoughts, no memories, no reasoning, and you would still know you exist. Because existence isn't something you deduce. It's something you experience directly. This has implications for how we think about consciousness today. A lot of modern philosophy of mind focuses on cognitive functions. How do we perceive? How do we remember? How do we reason? These are important questions. But Ibn Sina's flying man points to something more basic, the sheer fact of subjective experience. What it's like to be conscious, independent of any specific mental content. This is the hard problem of consciousness. And Ibn Sina saw it clearly 1,000 years ago. He didn't solve it. We still haven't solved it. But he identified it. He showed that there's something profoundly mysterious about the fact that we're not just information processing machines, but beings with inner lives, with first-person experiences, with a sense of self that exists even when all external input is removed. So what does all of this mean for you right now in your life? Why should you care about a 1,000-year-old thought experiment from a Persian philosopher? Because the flying man isn't just an abstract argument. It's an invitation. An invitation to notice something about your own experience that you normally take for granted. Right now, as you listen to these words, you are aware, conscious, present. But have you ever stopped to really appreciate how strange that is? You're not just a body. You're a body that knows it's a body. You're not just a brain processing information. You're a brain that experiences what it's like to process information. There's a you here. A subject. A center of experience. Something that perceives, feels, thinks, and knows that it exists. This is so obvious that we rarely think about it. But it's also so mysterious that science still can't fully explain it. Ibn Sina's insight was to recognize that this self-awareness, this inner presence, is fundamental. It's not derived from anything else. It's not a side effect of sensory input or physical processes. It's primary, immediate, undeniable. And recognizing this changes how you experience life. When you realize that your consciousness, your awareness, your sense of I am, is something deeper than your thoughts, deeper than your emotions, deeper than your physical sensations, you gain a kind of freedom. Because thoughts come and go. Emotions rise and fall. Sensations change constantly. But the awareness itself, the pure fact of being conscious, remains. This is what meditation traditions have been pointing to for millennia. The witness consciousness. The observer. The part of you that watches thoughts, but isn't the thoughts. The part that feels emotions, but isn't the emotions. Ibn Sina would say, that's the soul. That's the self-aware, immaterial aspect of your being that exists independent of all the changing content of experience. Whether you call it the soul, the self, pure awareness, or consciousness itself, the point is the same. You are not just your thoughts and feelings. You're the space in which thoughts and feelings arise. And this recognition is liberating. When you identify with your thoughts, you suffer when they're negative. When you identify with your emotions, you're controlled by them. When you identify with your body, you fear its decay and death. But when you recognize that you are the awareness itself, the consciousness that witnesses all of these things, you gain distance, perspective, freedom. This doesn't mean you stop caring about your thoughts, emotions, or body. It means you relate to them differently. You're no longer overwhelmed by them. You're the space that holds them. Ibn Sina's flying man is pointing you toward this realization. It's showing you that your deepest identity, your most fundamental sense of I am, exists prior to and independent of all the specific contents of your experience. And in moments of stillness, when you close your eyes and simply exist, you can touch this directly. You can experience what the flying man experiences, the pure, simple, undeniable fact of being aware. No sensory input needed. No thoughts required. Just the immediate, self-evident knowledge. I exist. I am. This is what Ibn Sina wanted you to see. Not as a religious doctrine to believe, but as a truth to experience directly. Before we end tonight, let's return to where we started. Close your eyes if they're not already closed. Take a breath. And just notice you're aware. Right now. In this moment. You're not seeing your face. Not touching your body. Not looking at yourself in a mirror. And yet, you know you exist. This simple, obvious, mysterious fact is what Ibn Sina was pointing to with the flying man. The knowledge of your own existence doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from your senses, or your memories, or other people confirming you're real. It comes from within. From the self-aware nature of consciousness itself. Whether that consciousness is produced by your brain or whether it's an immaterial soul that uses your brain as its instrument, the mystery remains. Why is there a you experiencing all of this? Why does it feel like something to be alive, to be aware, to exist? Ibn Sina didn't answer that question completely. Neither has anyone else. But he showed us where to look. Not out there, in the world of objects and sensations, but in here, in the immediate, undeniable presence of awareness itself. And maybe that's enough. Maybe recognizing the mystery is more valuable than solving it. Because in recognizing it, you touch something profound. Something that's been true your entire life, but that you rarely notice. You are here. You exist. You are aware. And that simple fact, that basic truth, is the foundation of everything else.